welcome Crouse, Colette Crouse from Stok. Colette, thank you so much for joining us on Livestream Hub. Could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about what you do at Stok?
Sure. I'm Colette Crouse. I'm the Director of Carbon Services with Stok, and Stok is an integrated sustainability services firm specializing in decarbonizing the built environment.
Amazing. Thank you. And some companies are conducting pilot projects to explore the decarbonization that you touched on and the decarbonization approaches before expanding across the portfolio. What's your opinion on this approach and what's needed to make it successful?
Sure. Yeah, we love pilot projects, and we've found through working with our clients that they're really a cost-effective way of learning and exploring new mitigation measures before scaling. We've also found that pilot projects can be a really successful place to educate internal stakeholders and to establish alignment around what might be newer topics in decarbonization for the business. In terms of what makes a pilot project successful, I'd say there's three key things that jump out. The first is, while an end goal is really important, pilot projects should be structured around the process rather than that outcome. The key value is going to be learning. The second thing is establishing a pilot project that's flexible and where course correction can happen midstream, as there's more of an iterative approach and a learning feedback loop created. And then the last thing is that as organizations are looking at that pilot project or a series of pilot projects to inform organizational strategy, really thinking about how much of a proxy that pilot project or that selection of pilot projects is for how you can roll it out across a portfolio. An example would be if you conducted pilot projects in office buildings, it might be difficult to roll that out across multifamily or industrial assets.
Yeah, and I love this idea of thinking about it as a system. And as energy systems continue to decarbonize, more attention is being paid to sources of emissions that are harder to abate. How is this showing up in your work?
So we work with a lot of commercial real estate developers, owners, operators, and we're seeing more and more interest in embodied carbon, a lot more interest in our life cycle assessment services and leveraging those early on in the process to inform design or even to inform decisions around reusing standing assets versus building new. We've also seen it show up in electrification. A lot more clients getting very serious about switching off of natural gas and investing in electrified systems in the building.
Yeah, so very much critical to that net zero transition. And speaking of net zero and in that net zero space, there's more discussion about reporting on performance against targets. How are you working with your clients on this?
Sure. Yeah. So measurement, reporting, and verification is certainly gaining momentum alongside the corporate interest in climate targets. The way that this shows up for us in our work is supporting clients in collecting data and establishing those collection systems, as well as processing the data and analyzing it in a way that you can better understand your performance against a target, and have the ability to disentangle or to identify what changes are happening due to structural changes in the business, due to changes in operations versus changes in methodology. We want to be really clear and have our clients be clear about changes in data sets being different from intentional investments in efficiency in other decarbonization metrics.
Absolutely. Well, with just a minute left, do you have anything that you would love for people to understand about the work that you do or a key takeaway?
You know, at Stok, everything we do is really grounded in data, and I'm sure that starts to get a little old hearing how important data is, but it's the case that we find that data is absolutely necessary to informing decision making, but that it's important to not get too hung up on the data itself in terms of going and making decisions with imperfect data. Things will be imperfect, and the idea is that directionally what you should have should send you in the right direction, and then you iterate and build over time.
Thank you, Colette, for being here today at Livestream Hub. We really appreciate your presence and all that Stok does.
Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you.